If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all their property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. And I believe that the banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. Thomas Jefferson, an American statesman, diplomat, lawyer, architect, philosopher, and founding father who served as third president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. Ladies and gentlemen, no holy smokes in this video. This is something dead serious, and this is something that I've been talking about on the channel a while with what's happening with the banks, with what's happening at the Federal Reserve, and how they're absolutely destroying the standard of living for the poor, for the middle class, but now I can't believe they've actually admitted it. In this video, I'm going to go over how the Federal Reserve is systematically designed, unlike they say, to steal from the poor and the middle class and to prop up the 1%. So everyone, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. Don't believe me everyone? Look at this chart. This is the top 10% and the top 50% of income earners in the US from 1900 to 2021. And what can you see that's happened on this chart since 1971 when they removed the gold standard, and what has happened in this chart since the year 2000 when Alan Greenspan went on this QE money printing frenzy, started printing money like crazy. From 1971, we've seen the bottom 50%, their income has been going lower and lower and lower. But really, since 2000, when they started quantitative easing, when they started bailing out the banks, bailing out the rich, when they started inflating asset prices and creating the biggest bubble in history, the top 10% income earners, their income has been skyrocketing, while us, the poor and the middle class, have been on the decline. But people, you know what they say, once people lose everything, they lose it. And this trend can only go on for so long. And now inflation is becoming a big political issue. And if this keeps going any longer, say for example, even if you're rich, you got a lot of money, you may say, who cares? Well, eventually people are going to come for your money. This is not me trying to fearmonger or be all doom and gloom. This is just facts. When you study history, when the wealth gap gets too extreme, when people have no hope of building wealth or it gets too hard to build wealth, eventually this leads to unrest. And so for why the past 20 years, the Federal Reserve has been able to get away with all this crazy money printing without it increasing the official CPI numbers, but now we're about to pay the price of kicking the can down the road for the past 30 years. But now people are finally waking up to the fact that the Federal Reserve isn't there for the American people's interests. They're there, and they have always been there, for financial stability and the bank's interests. But going back to my point of this video, the Federal Reserve was finally called out on this, and this was his shocking response.
I'm wondering if you can talk to us about any metrics that the Fed uses to assess how inflation affects different groups of Americans, especially lower income earners. And are you worried that the Fed underestimates or can't effectively measure the impact of inflation on some of the most vulnerable households? Thank you.
So it's more a matter of, I think the problem that we're talking about here is really that people who are on fixed incomes who are living paycheck to paycheck. They're spending most or all of their of what they're earning on food, gasoline, rent, heating, things like that, basic necessities. And so inflation right away forces people like that to make very difficult decisions. So that's really the point. I'm not aware of inflation literally falling more on different socioeconomic groups. That's not the point. The point is some people are just really prone to suffer more. I mean,
Everyone, he pretty much just said, well, you know what, the poor, the middle class, they're just prone to suffering.
Really prone to suffer more. I mean,
and he finally admitted people on fixed income and people on low incomes, they're going to get hurt more by inflation. But he tried to backtrack a bit and says, he doesn't know if inflation hits certain groups more than others. But now let's see what he says about the 1%.
For people who are economically well off, inflation isn't good, it's bad. High inflation is bad, but they're going to be able to continue to eat and keep their homes and drive their cars and things like that. It's more, so that's really how I think of it.
So did you see what he tried to say there? He said, well, look, inflation's bad for the top earners as well. Well, that's not the case, everyone. Say, for example, if you're earning $1 million per year and you can survive on $100,000, If inflation goes up 10%, then that means your expenses have only gone up $10,000. But let's say, for example, you got a portfolio worth $500,000 and they have gone up over 20% the past year. Well, you've made a $100,000 profit. Now your expenses are only up $10,000, but your assets are up $100,000. So you're definitely much more well off than those that are on fixed incomes and have no assets at all. And you could definitely tell how nervous he was, and you just see him bite his lip there after what he said. I think he wasn't really happy with his answer, and I think he knows that people are starting to wake up to what they're really doing. But this video is not to hate on the rich or hate on the 1%, it's just to open your eyes to show how much the system is rigged to benefit those that have assets and how it is systematically rigged to destroy those that don't have any assets. So like any game, you need to learn how it works and how to use it to your benefit. You need to find ways to increase your income, and you need to own hard assets like gold, silver, land, value stocks, etc. Because if you try to get rich working a 9 to 5, the game is rigged against you, and it's never going to happen. So everyone, it looks like everyone's waking up to the Federal Reserve's Ponzi scheme, but what do you think about this? Let me know. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.